I refuse to believe that these words were uttered for the first time and that God is starting something new by saying, you're going to have to eat me. It was part of life. It was part of how humans related to their gods. And God honored it and said, I have a better way. I've reserved my people from eating flesh, sacrificial flesh, and blood because I have something greater coming to you. I'm separating my people, Israel, from all other cultures, all other people groups, by saying, no, don't drink blood, because you'll get to drink my blood for the first time. And that will be the only blood that you drink. It's the power of it. But, I'll throw this in there. The Nordic people. Nordic people like Sweden, Denmark, Finland, those guys. Okay, you know how they would make a blood covenant together? This is pretty cool. Two men would stand next to each other. They would cut the palms of their hands, and they would hold each other's hands, and then they would tie their hands to each other, and then afterwards they would lay on the floor. They would lay on the dirt next to each other while clasping their hands, blood pouring out of their hands, mixing together, and then they would cover themselves up with sod. And they'd stay there for about 15-20 minutes, signifying this. Me, as an individual, and this guy, as an individual, were both dead and buried. And when we come up from under that sod, we come up having one blood and one soul in two different bodies. Let me remind you of Galatians 2:20. I have been crucified with Christ. I no longer live, but Christ lives in me, and the life that I live in this body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave his life for me. That is what you're saying. That is what they did. That is what God did to us. Are you getting this? And then read 21. I do not treat God's gracious gift as something of minor importance and defeat its very purpose. I do not set aside and invalidate and frustrate and nullify the grace, the unmerited favor of God. For if justification, righteousness, acquittal from guilt comes through observing the ritual of the law, then Christ the Messiah died groundlessly and to no purpose and in vain. His death was then wholly superfluous. God went through all this to say that my very blood flows through your veins. My very life is in you, and I can't break it. I, God, can't break it. It's irrevocable. Now you want to live a life of contract? For 7 years, I've related to this book as though it was a contract. As though I have my own end of the bargain to keep up. And if I do, then I'll be okay. It's enough. It's enough. This is not a contract. This is a book of covenant. This is a book of blood covenant. I refuse to believe that I need to behave a certain way to be blessed by God. I refuse to believe that I have my end of the bargain to hold up in order for God to honor his end. I will live the rest of my life knowing that in my very veins, his very blood and life flows. and that I have life, not because of what I've chosen to do and not do, but because of what He chose to do. And the last thing that we haven't talked about yet is this tree. This tree that they plant and they sprinkle with blood. What's the tree that God planted and sprinkled with blood as a remembrance? Some things don't need words to explain. But you know, there's one thing we haven't talked about. Why would you do this? Why would anyone do this? Well, seriously, why would people do this? Why would you give yourself like that to someone? Why would you say, I will pour my blood out for you? I'm not talking about God now. I'm talking about two human beings. Why would anyone in their right mind go to that extent? Well, I can think of 4 reasons. The first one is money. I'm not doing too well. I lost a lot of money in stocks. That guy's loaded. I make a blood covenant with him, I have access to all his dough. The second reason is military power and might. You have a very, very strong army. If I get into a blood covenant with you, then I can use your army against my enemies, and I'll be protected and set for life. And the third is name. I come from a small name, nothing significant, but your name is famous and powerful in all the lands. If I enter into a blood covenant, my name gets elevated to your stature. Let me ask you something. What money do I have to give God? What military power and might can I possibly gift to Him? What name do I carry? Half the world can't even pronounce it. There's one thing left. There's only one thing left. It's love. Overwhelming. Limitless. Endless. All-consuming. Furious love. You know what's the hardest question? A question that's impossible to answer? Why does He love us? Why? Why do you love me? There's no answer for it. It's the wrong question. You know why? Because if He could answer why, then He could answer why not. Because if He could answer why, then His love is hinged upon the object of the love and not the lover. Then His love is determined by us and not Him. And I don't know about you, but I don't think God would base His love on us. I think He'd base His love on Him. So if I can't ask why, then what's the question I must ask? What's the question He wants me to ask? He longs for me to ask. What's the question that He waits patiently for people to ask? How? God, how do you love me? I hope tonight you got a little bit of it. Do you know what's amazing about how He loves? You get to spend the rest of your life learning exactly how God loves you. And when you're in Him, your life never ends.